All right, so I'm just gonna share some things that blessed my heart when I was in my study of Mark. I'm finally done now, the book of Mark. But one of the things I noticed towards the end of Mark, there's this occurrence that happens where Jesus goes to the house of Simon the leper, and he's there and with a bunch of men, and in comes this woman, Mary, with a very, very expensive bottle of perfume. This bottle of perfume was worth a whole year's salary. Can you imagine, take your salary, go buy a bottle of perfume? That's how expensive this thing was. And she came and she anointed Jesus. She just worshipped him and poured this oil over him. And of course she's in a room with a bunch of men who are grumbling and complaining that, hey man, look at this, could have been spent, you could have sold this, you could have given it all to the poor. And I love Jesus' response, because he says, look guys, stop. This woman, and I love this phrase, I caught this phrase, it says she has done what she could. She has done what she could. She goes, Jesus said, you've got poor with you all the time, but I'm here right now, and she has done what she could. And I love the fact that she pushed through all of the criticisms of the men. Can you imagine being in a room and you're worshiping Jesus and you're honoring Jesus Christ as the Son of God, as the Messiah, and men are like, meh, and didn't defer her. And she just kept going, and she just kept pouring, and she just kept worshiping. And I love that Jesus honored her so much that Jesus noticed. Jesus noticed, and he said, you guys, she will be remembered for this forever. And of course, 2,000 years ago, I'm standing up here talking about this beautiful woman who broke that expensive vial of oil, who did all that she could in worshiping Jesus. And then you go to a story, 2 chapters back, in chapter 8, and there's another story about another woman, and she's in the temple. And Jesus is in the temple, and he's sitting down, and he's just watching people bring offerings, as is the kingdom of God. This is what we do. We bring offerings to the temple, right? And there's men walking in with bags and bags of money, and they're lining up to put this money into the offering plate. And there's a woman, and doesn't have a bag. She has a little handful of a few copper pennies, and she's bringing it. And Jesus notices her. He sees all the other ones, but he notices her, because here she was coming and not just bringing out of her excess, but bringing all that she had. And she was doing all that she could. She was doing all that she could. Such a beautiful picture. And I love out of this, what I get out of this is that, you know, we're called, and we're given finances, we're given giftings, and we're given opportunities for worship. And my challenge for me was, you know, Annie, are you giving all that you can? In worship, when we come together here, or if you're in a larger crowd, you know, instead of being, and I'm not saying it's here, but in general, I've seen people who've been afraid to lift their hands or do anything. And Jesus is saying, are you doing all that you can? Are you ignoring all the noises, as Mary did with all the men criticizing her, and are you just focusing on me, and are you just worshiping? Are we doing all that we can with our worship, right? God's not looking at, you know, people just lifting their hands and doing that, but it's the heart that he noticed. He notices the heart when you bring all that you can, when you bring all of your giftings, right? And you're doing it with a heart of worship, because that's what God's looking for. And out of the millions of people on the face of the earth, you know what God's looking for today is people who can do all that they can with their finances, right? Not giving to get, but honoring God, saying, God, I may have just a little, but I'm doing it with such a heart of worship. I'm coming to worship and saying, God, I don't know how to sing. I've got just such a little, but I'm going to do with that heart of worship. God, my gifting is not that great, and I'm a little insecure, but God, I'm going to give all that I can out of a heart of worship, right? And if we apply that, Jesus' words, she did all that she could. And the little woman, and she had lots, but the woman had nothing, and Jesus still notices. So I want to encourage you today that Jesus still notices. Bring what you can. Do all that you can with that heart, that beautiful heart of worship. that doesn't care what anybody else says, doesn't care what anybody else says, but it's all about Jesus. Our focus is on Him, and we do all that we can. Amen?
Amen.